monsters, and welcome to the Horror Files. I am your host, Dead Alive Dana, and on this podcast, I dive into a particular horror movie each episode, providing insights and reviews as well as the latest in horror movie news. And for this episode, laughter isn't the best medicine as we explore a new modern horror classic packed with mental health issues, trauma, and of course, lots of really fucking creepy smiles. That's right, monsters. I will be discussing the Parker Finn psychological horror film, Smile, from 2022.
What is it you like to talk about?
My patient. Hi. I know you're nervous. I just want to have a chat.
I'm seeing something no one else can see except for me. It's smiling at me. Oh my God!
Yesterday, a patient in your care died brutally in front of you.
I need to find an explanation for what happened.
It's smiling at me. It's smiling at me.
You're going to die! You're going to die! You're going to die! You're going to
I found 20 cases involving 19 victims with a direct line linking them all together.
You said only 19. Why is it that everybody else who's seen it is dead and you're alive? I've seen it too.
You? Get away from me!
How long between each victim's death?
None of them survived longer than a week.
Today's my 4th day.
I am not gonna keep running.
I have to face it.
How does it make you feel?
I'm just really scared that something bad is going to happen.
IMDb describes the plot for Smile as follows. After witnessing a bizarre, traumatic incident involving a patient, a psychiatrist becomes increasingly convinced she is being threatened by an uncanny entity. The film was written and directed by Parker Finn and stars Sosie Bacon, Kyle Gallner, and Jesse T. Usher. And before we get into the film, just a couple little things. The smiles in the film are actually all natural and they're not enhanced with visual effects. The studio even asked if they could be tweaked, but Parker Finn stuck to his guns as he wanted them to be grounded in their creepiness. So those are all real smiles. And a couple days before the September 30th release, actors from the film showed up at various baseball games, sitting behind home plate, dead still and smiling while staring into the camera, unmoving despite fans in the audience being understandably concerned while wearing smile shirts. And then I think one also appeared in the background with the crowd during the Today Show as well. So yeah, they did some really interesting marketing for this film. The walls of the hospital where Rose works are painted this shade of pink called Baker Miller pink. And in the late 1960s, Alexander Schaus conducted extensive research on the effect of this color on emotions and concluded that it could reduce hostile, violent, or aggressive behavior. So as a result, Baker Miller pink was used in correctional facilities, psychiatric wards, and other environments to mitigate harmful behaviors. However, subsequent studies have shown that the color's calming influence only lasts about 15 to 30 minutes, and further research suggests that in certain situations, the color may actually have a negative effect, worsening hostile, violent, and aggressive behavior. So kind of interesting. So without further ado, let's get into it. So at a psychiatric ward in Newark, New Jersey, therapist Rose Cotter, played by Sosie Bacon, who I will be referring to as Sausagey Bacon. That's just what I'm calling her now. Of course, if you know, she is the daughter of Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon. But to me, she will always be Sausagey Bacon. And so that's what I'm calling her. So she meets a PhD student who's come to see her named Laura Weaver. And she explains that she recently witnessed her professor kill himself and claims to be terrorized by this invisible entity that only she can see, that appears as various smiling people, and that also has foretold her death. So when she's talking to her, she suddenly begins screaming and choking, prompting Rose to call for help. Suddenly, Laura calms down and gets up and smiles, and then fatally cuts her throat in front of Rose and dies. So the next day, Rose sees another patient named Carl, who smiles in the same way and tells her that she is going to die. Rose calls for nurses to restrain Carl, only to realize that Carl has been asleep the whole time.
Hey, Carl. How you feeling today? Carl. Carl?
She's gonna die. I'm gonna die. Everybody dies.
Carl, look at me.
You're going to die. 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 You're going to die.
Help! This patient is 5150. He needs to be restrained.
No! No! No!
So concerned for Rose's mental well-being, her supervisor Morgan orders Rose to take a week off, but Rose's hallucinations continue, leading those around her to believe that she may be a danger to herself. Rose visits her former therapist Madeline, who suggests that Rose's problems stem from her childhood, in which she witnessed her abusive and mentally ill mother die from an overdose. That's actually our opening scene, as that visual image of her mom dead in her bed, and and Rose as a child seeing it. So Rose also has a sister, her older sister Holly, and she goes and buys a toy train as a birthday present for her nephew Jackson, who's Holly's son, and for his birthday party. And at the party, he unwraps her present to find the corpse of Mustache, who was Rose's cat, horrifying everyone. Rose has a public breakdown and sees a guest smiling unnaturally at her, causing her to fall into a glass coffee table and injure herself. And this convinces Rose that she has fallen victim to some kind of curse, although her fiance Trevor believes she has gone crazy.
So cool! Princess Harper, yours, Mom.
Ooh, that one's from Aunt Rose. What'd you get, sweetheart? Oh my God.
What the hell is wrong with you?
No, I promise you this wasn't me. It wasn't me, I swear. You guys have to believe me, please. Somebody please fucking believe me. What the fuck are you? Leave me the fuck alone! You see her! You have to see her! Please, Holly, tell me that you see somebody! Please!
It's such an upsetting scene, especially because this poor little adorable boy had to open up this box and see a dead cat in there. And oh my gosh, it's just so sad. And so upon learning that Laura's professor was smiling at her before his death, Rose visits the professor's widow, Victoria, and learns that he had also witnessed a suicide shortly before his own. So Rose asks her ex-boyfriend, Joel, played by Kyle Gallner, that if she can to review old police records and basically like dig into this. So they find several cases of people who witnessed someone commit suicide while smiling at them before doing the same thing to themselves. And it basically happens. It's kind of like The Ring. It happens within a week. Sometimes it's less than a week. Sometimes it's exactly a week, but it's no more than that. I don't know what the obsession is with these curses being like a week. It's kind of bizarre, but in any case, it's kind of a common thread in a lot of horror films. So Rose tries to patch things up with her fiance, Trevor, but realizes that he has called on Madeline for a psychological intervention without asking her first. Upset, she tells him off and leaves to speak with Holly instead, who also dismisses Rose's belief in a curse. And Holly basically compares Rose's behavior to their late mother. Rose snaps and calls out Holly for abandoning her before their mother's death. Rose and Joel discover the sole exception in the chain of suicides, which was a convicted murderer named Robert Talley. And so Rose and Joel visit him in prison, where he claims that the events are caused by an entity that feeds on trauma, and that the only way to escape is to basically brutally kill someone else in front of a witness to traumatize them, thereby passing the curse to the witness. So Rose angrily rejects this idea, after which a terrified Robert yells at her to leave when he realizes that Rose is the one who is cursed. So later, Madeline visits Rose for a therapy session, only to reveal herself as the entity in disguise when the real Madeline calls.
What are you doing here?
I apologize if you felt ambushed yesterday. That was the wrong approach. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you should go.
Rose, we both know I have a responsibility to notify the authorities if you're a danger to yourself or others. I need you to help convince me you're not a danger. Trevor mentioned there'd been talk of ghosts.
I never use the word ghosts.
Evil beings, then. Paranormal.
I admitted to him that I was seeing things, the same thing that I told you. That's not happening anymore, okay? It was stress and lack of sleep. I confided in him, and that was obviously a mistake. But that's it, okay? Are we good?
How are you feeling today?
Let me think. I'm pretty sure my fiance thinks I'm crazy. My sister has just totally shut me out. And now my former therapist is making unannounced house calls to ensure that I am not a danger. So other than that, I'm really good.
Should you get that?
What?
Rose? It's Madeline. I've been trying your mobile all morning. I'm very concerned about how we left things yesterday. Rose? Are you there? Hello?
No. No.
Almost time, Rose.
What the f are you? Please. No.
So Rose drives to her hospital with a knife and murders Carl in front of Morgan. But this is revealed to be a hallucination. Rose wakes up in her car to find Morgan standing outside. He notices the knife, but she speeds away, prompting him to alert the police. So Rose ends up driving to her abandoned family home, realizing how careless she got, and gets an idea to face the entity, believing that the entity's curse ends with her if she dies by herself. Basically, if I eliminate having anybody else around me, then it won't pass to anybody else. So the entity appears as Rose's mother, and it is revealed that Rose could have saved her mom, but chose not to. And the entity ends up attacking Rose, and a fire starts during the struggle, seemingly killing the entity. Rose flees the house and returns to Joel's apartment. But then we see Joel smiles at Rose, who realizes this is yet another hallucination.
And so I was selfish, and that was not fair to you. And I am so sorry. And I'm being selfish again by even asking, but do you think that I could stay here and just sleep? Could you stay with me while I sleep? Please.
Yeah, of course I'll stay with you. I'll stay with you forever.
So in reality, Joel has tracked Rose's phone to her old house and found her outside. Rose panics and runs back inside, where the entity rips its skin off to reveal its true form, which is this kind of skinless, semi-humanoid monstrosity with multiple sets of malformed jaws nesting within an enormous smiling mouth. The sight of the entity's image causes Rose to fall into a trance, and the entity possesses her by pulling her mouth open and crawling inside. Joel breaks down the front door and witnesses a smiling Rose set herself on fire, passing the curse on to him. During the credits, Rose can be heard screaming and crying whilst asking the entity what it is as her voice gets more distorted. And that is Smile. So let's get into a little bit more on Smile. So in June of 2020, Parker Finn was signed on by Paramount Pictures to write and direct a feature-length adaptation of his own short film called Laura Hasn't Slept. So Laura Hasn't Slept was written and directed by Finn in 2019, and it later debuted at South by Southwest in 2020. And the positive reception at the film festival resulted in Paramount commissioning the film maker for a feature film adaptation. Though it's later revealed that the movie is actually a continuation of the original story. So that premise follows Laura as she recounts to her therapist a series of horrific dreams and hallucinations where she is being pursued by a smiling man. As she does so, she begins to realize that she is not where she thinks she is, that she is again experiencing an extrasensory episode, and that the counselor she is confiding in is actually the entity that has been tormenting her. While the ending of the short film seems to indicate that the character dies, Laura later appears in Smile, where she seeks the help of Dr. Rose Cotter. So that girl that we see in the beginning, who ends up cutting her own throat, that's the character. And so it indicates that the resolution to Laura Hasn't Slept was actually a continued hallucination. And so that character ultimately sets in motion the events of the full-length film, which is kind of interesting that does that. Excuse me. So the short movie later received a wide release as a bonus feature on the home video release of Smile. Paramount marketed the feature as a, quote, Smile original short film. Finn additionally called the short, quote, The Origin of Smile. And in March of that year, the short film had won the Special Jury Recognition Prize for South by Southwest's Midnight Short category. So in September of 2021, the film was announced under the title Something's Wrong with Rose, with, of course, Sausage Bacon cast as the titular character. The following month, Jesse T. Usher, Kyle Gallner, Rob Morgan, Cal Penn, Judy Reese, Jillian Zinser, and Caitlin Stasi joined the cast. Paramount originally planned for the film, which had a fairly low budget of $17 million, to be a streaming-only release for Paramount Plus. The film was screened for test audiences, and it scored much higher than anticipated, prompting Paramount to give the film a theatrical release in the United States. It grossed $22 million over its opening weekend, which Paramount's distribution chief Chris Aronson said, quote, exceeded our wildest expectations. Principal photography began on October 11, 2021 in New Jersey, including in the city of Hoboken, and wrapped on November 24th, 2021. Some filming locations included the Murphy Varnish Lofts, Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School in New York, and Lewis Morris Park in Morristown. Editing and post-production were completed in May of 2022. Visual effects were done by The Artery and were supervised by Yuval Levy and Vico Sharabani. when the film was simply retitled Smile. The film's score was composed by Cristobal Tapia de Vir and featured an obscure musical instrument called the daxophone as the lead instrument. For practical effects, Finn recruited Alec Guinness and Tom Woodruff Jr. of Amalgamated Dynamics, whom he described as a major influence in wanting to be a horror filmmaker for their work in such films as Aliens. Smile had its world premiere at Fantastic Fest on September 22nd, 2022, followed by screenings at Beyond Fest on September 27th. It was released in the United States on September 30th, 2022 by Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures president and CEO Brian Robbins said that Smile was originally slated for a streaming-only release, obviously, but because of the strong results from test screenings, decided to go theatrical with it. It was released for VOD platforms, including Paramount Plus, on November 15th, 2022, with a DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K Ultra HD set released on December 13th, 2022. The trailer and poster were released on June 22nd. Brad Miska of Bloody Disgusting described the footage as pretty generic, but said it stood out due to its similarities to Ringu and its remake, The Ring. Shania Russell at Slash Film compared the film to The Ring, It Follows, and Truth or Dare and wrote, quote, "It's all very familiar and probably not too hard to imagine how the movie will progress, but the scares will make or break the experience, and based on the trailer, Smile is more than promising." All in all, Paramount spent an estimated $50 million promoting the film. Excuse me. Smile grossed $105.9 million in the U.S. and Canada and $111.5 million in other territories for a total worldwide gross of $217.4 million. Deadline Hollywood calculated the film's net profit as $180 million, accounting for production budgets, marketing, talent participations, and other costs. Box office grosses and home media revenues placed it 10th on their list of 2022's most valuable blockbusters. In the United States and Canada, Smile was released alongside Bros and was projected to gross 16 to 20 million from 3,645 theaters in its opening weekend. The film made $8.2 million on its first day, including $2 million from Thursday night previews. It went on to debut to $22.6 million, and while being the biggest debut of September of 2022. The film made $18.5 million in its sophomore weekend, remaining atop the box office. The 18% second weekend drop was the second smallest ever for a horror film, behind Get Out's 15% in February of 2017, and marked the best non-holiday hold of the pandemic era. Although it was dethroned by newcomer Halloween Ends in its third weekend, the film continued to hold well, making $12.6 million. On November 9th, it became the only the third R-rated film released in the pandemic era to gross $100 million domestically, as well as becoming the highest grossing R-rated horror film worldwide during the pandemic. Marissa Mirabel of IndieWire gave the film a grade of B-, noting its plot similarities to films such as It Follows, The Ring, Oculus, and Final Destination. She wrote, quote, "Smile navigates unhealed trauma through a supernatural lens and mischievous juxtaposition, despite feeling like a shadow of other stories," and added that it, quote, "delivers a captivating and claustrophobic mental hellscape that will cause one to both grimace and grin." Tasha Robinson of Polygon wrote, quote, "Smile is often a gimmicky, even corny horror movie, packed with so many jump scares that the sheer pile-on borders on laughable. But no matter how excessively the legitimate scares pile up, they're startling and convincing. The editing and music are impressively turned for maximum impact whenever the slow-burning tension resolves with an abrupt, ugly surprise. All of which makes Smile an efficient ride, if an unusually unrelenting one. Katie Reif of RogerEbert.com gave the film 2.5 out of 4 stars, writing, quote, "In padding out the concept from an 11-minute short film to a nearly 2-hour movie, Smile leans too heavily not only on formulaic mystery plotting, but also on horror themes and imagery lifted from popular hits like The Ring and It Follows." Kevin Mayer of The Times wrote, quote, "There are some nice jump scares and Bacon is charismatic, but it's achingly derivative and dull," and gave the film 2 out of 5 stars. Jeffrey M. Anderson of Common Sense Media also gave the film 2 out of 5 stars, writing, quote, "The image of a creepy, sinister smile is so primal and so chilling that it might have inspired something truly penetrating, but sadly this horror movie is content to fall back on noisy jump scares." At the 2023 MTV Movie and TV Awards, Smile was nominated for Best Movie and Most Frightened Performance for Sausagey Bacon. At the 51st Saturn Awards, the film was nominated for Best Horror Film. Following the release of Smile during interviews between November and December of 2022, writer and director Parker Finn stated that he had intentionally left portions of the first movie ambiguous, with various plot lines unresolved, while expressing interest in exploring those details in a potential sequel film. The filmmaker stated that while additional installments may explore the backstory of the entity, he would like to keep its mysterious nature intact. He noted that a follow-up movie would be notably different from the first, stating that he believed, quote, "There is still a lot of interesting stuff to explore in the world of Smile. I want to make sure that there's a new, exciting, fresh way into it that the audience isn't anticipating. I also want to find some new ways to scare them and unnerve them." In 2023, Paramount Pictures officially announced at CinemaCon that a sequel had been greenlit and was officially in pre-production, with Parker Finn once again serving as writer and director. In December 2023, Naomi Scott was cast in the leading role. In January of 2024, Lucas Gage was added to the cast of the sequel, and Kyle Gallner reprised his role as Joel, with Rosemary DeWitt also joining. Smile 2 was released on October 18th, 2024, and that will be coming up next for the episode. So that's Smile, which has a Metacritic score of 68, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 80%, and a Letterboxd rating of 2.8 out of 5. So in terms of my rating for this, I probably would give Smile I'd say probably like a 7 out of 10, because there's some things that work for it and some things that don't. It sort of walks this line between a story about mental illness that kind of makes you think, and then also kind of exploiting awful real life things like trauma and suicide for cheap scares. As for the former, I don't think the film is necessarily that insightful. Although subtextually it's, it's can be a plea for people with mental illness. I think that Finn's script addresses how many continue to stigmatize others by isolating them emotionally or casually, sort of tossing around terms like, head case, nut case, all that kind of stuff. So, don't do that. It sucks. And I think that it's because it's interesting also that this woman is a therapist, a psychologist, and her own fiance immediately turns on her, and when she starts exhibiting signs of, having distress and mental distress, which I think is fascinating because, I would think that he would know the kind of trauma that she endured as a young child and be kind of sympathetic to that. And, but no, he's just kind of like, anytime, like there's the one scene in the car where they're talking about, the shit that happened after like the party and stuff. And she's trying to explain stuff and he's literally like shrinking away from her. He is so terrified and freaked out by her. But I think, Finn puts enough kind of Psych 101 fodder into the story to keep it from being, kind of crass fear profiteering. Rose has a walking, talking, smiling, stalking, appearing out of nowhere metaphor on her heels. And it leads her to a location where she can kind of walk slowly through this sort of symbolic manifestation of her subconscious. And, I think Freud would be proud, though he'd also probably laugh and roll his eyes at the scene of the cat foreshadowing kind of leads us to. But I think that Finn is a strong visual director. He uses, and I think this really comes, I think this becomes even more confident in his sequel. Tilting and pivoting the camera, using shadows, using upsetting bits of body horror and distortion effects to, generate some potent atmosphere. But I think in this, he struggles in other ways. And I think where that happens is in the film's lack of expediency and pacing. I mean, this is a nearly 2-hour runtime film. And we do have some bits where it does drag more than it really needs to. And also that the fact that a millennial protagonist would actually have a landline in her home, but I don't know. I've heard that people are going back to landlines now, which is kind of interesting. So, maybe that just like kind of started this, this new shift in people going back to landline phones. But I think that Smile might have worked better and more efficiently if it had more tightly focused on the core idea here, which is despite her trauma and a rapidly piling up series of disturbing events, Rose just puts on this happy face and soldiers on through her life, insisting she's okay. And this kind of character depiction is really a very, it's a sharp lance in the side of stigma. Finn tends to kind of overcomplicate the idea. So some creepy moments are very contrived, and it sort of arrives at this conclusion that has us torn between wanting something more memorable and dramatic and appreciating its subtlety, at least relative to other mainstream horror films. And so I think that at least the film shows a lot of technical and thematic ambition of a filmmaker that's just beginning to tap his potential. I think that we really, once we get into, and sort of spoilers, I guess, for my next review, which is Smile 2, I feel like it is there that the germination of these ideas really start to come into fruition and are better executed. They have more emotional resonance, and also the themes of them, I think, are better explored. And so I think that, Smile is a good start, and it's solid. But I really think it's not until we get into the next film that this all starts to really sort of come into its own. So so we'll be talking about that the next episode. So this movie is available to watch on Paramount Plus, the Roku channel, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Fandango at Home, Apple TV, and Google Play. And that was Smile. And now let's head over to the Horror Files News Corner. After helming his take on The Exorcist, modern master of horror Mike Flanagan is heading back into the world of Stephen King. Deadline broke the news that Flanagan is writing and directing a new adaptation of King's acclaimed novella, The Mist. Flanagan will also produce the feature through Red Room, alongside Tyler Thompson and Spyglass's Gary Barber and Chris Stone. Alexandra Magistro will executive produce for Red Room. The story is set in a small Maine town that is consumed by a thick, mysterious fog from which creatures emerge to attack the townsfolk. A group of survivors hole up in a local grocery store, sparking mob mentality and empowering unhinged extremists who become as dangerous as the horrors outside. The Mist was first published as part of the 1980 anthology Dark Forces, before being included in King's 1985 collection Skeleton Crew. The novella spawned a 2007 film directed by Frank Darabont, and a 2017 TV series on Spike. Remember Spike TV, guys? Yeah. The Mist will mark Flanagan's fifth King adaptation following Gerald's Game, Dr. Sleep, The Life of Chuck, and the forthcoming Carrie series. With Evil Dead Burn due out on July 24th, the next entry in the legendary horror franchise is already in the works. From writer-director Francis Galuppi, The Last Stop in Yuma County, New Zealand's The Screen Guild reveals that the seventh installment's working title is Evil Dead Wrath, with production slated to begin this month in Auckland, New Zealand. Charlotte Hope from The Nun, Jessica McNee from Mortal Kombat, Zach Gilford from Midnight Mass, Josh Hellman from Mad Max Fury Road, Ella Newton from Dangerous Animals, Elizabeth Cullen from Diabolic, and Australian newcomer Ella Oliphant are set to star. Plot details are being kept under wraps. Evil Dead creator Sam Raimi and franchise producer Rob Taupert are producing. Evil Dead icon Bruce Campbell and Evil Dead Rise filmmaker Lee Cronin will executive produce alongside Rommel Adam and Jose Canas. New Line Cinema will distribute domestically through Warner Brothers Pictures, with Sony distributing internationally, Studio Canal distributing in the UK, and Metropolitan Film Export distributing in France. And that's it for this week, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Threads at Dead Alive Dana. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes or movies for me to talk about, you can email me at deadalivedana@gmail.com. And until next time, monsters, stay safe, and most importantly, stay spooky.